Hello and welcome. My name is Warren Allen. I am the founder, creator of this. And what is this? This is something God has placed on my heart, something that, and I'll delve into this, I guess, a little bit more later, something that I wasn't completely keen on doing, but it gave me the confidence and the peace about getting started with this. And I'll tell you what this is. This is a podcast. And the name of it is called the ISI Project. What is that? The ISI Project. ISI. ISI? It stands for Iron Sharpens Iron. And the scriptural foundation for this is found in Proverbs 27:17. That's actually going to be in the BSB, Berean Standard Bible. As iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. So what is the ISI Project? The ISI Project, it is a safe space, creative place. It's going to be geared towards the men, where you can come unapologetically, talk about your experiences, lessons learned, share wisdom. Safe place, right? We can talk about the full gamut, from everything from faith, work, family, relationships, even finances, everything in between. And again, that's what you guys can expect. And as I get going with this, I'll continue to bring you more people, talk about more experiences, more lessons learned. But this is a special one, because this is the first thing, the first episode, first time out the gate. And my guest tonight is someone who I respect highly, someone who I personally say is revered, kind of in our, not just our friend group, but in the community. He is a gentleman who is definitely perfect for what we're going to talk about tonight, which is, we'll get to the topic of it. But his name is Lamar Reaves, and he is a brother in the faith, a husband, also a comedian. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit later. He actually just did a special. I'm very proud of him for doing it. But again, he's a good man, definitely wealth of wisdom and knowledge ever since I moved to this area. And I'd like to welcome my very first guest to the ISI Project, Lamar Reaves.
What's going on, brother?
What's going on, Lamar?
Good to see you. Good to see
Man,
you.
it's great to see you too. Always good to see you. Always a good time, man. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here.
Congratulations to you, man. I think this is gonna be great. I'm looking forward to watching more Iron Sharpens Iron podcasts in the future, man. And you'll thank you for all the nice accolades.
Oh man, of course. Everything I said was true. Everything I said was true. You're beyond Lamar. So we've known each other, I guess, quickly. About 6 years so far.
Yep.
Oh,
Okay, since 2018,
yeah. And Lamar's a big car guy too, kind of like myself. But man, he would invite me out. I was new to South Carolina, South Kakalaki, and he invited me out, man, to this place called Cars and Coffee. He always did that, so I definitely appreciated that, brother.
Yeah, had some fun times, man.
Yeah, you are one of one. And the reason why I brought you on today, especially with the topic we're going to talk about, is the art of being you. And I felt that you were perfect for that, because ever since I've known you, you're a man who walks at a certain level of poise, wisdom, but at the same time, you don't necessarily take yourself overly serious, but yet people know that, there is a certain level of just a foundational, cue that you have. And I think that's perfect. And so again, we're just going to talk about the art of being you, just the value of, what does it mean for a person to be themselves? Maybe some men can do the same. I think especially in the day of TikTok, Instagram, all this kind of stuff, or followers. Yeah, exactly. All this influence. It's good to be, just solid in yourself. Not letting anyone necessarily overly hype you up or give them the power to tear you down. And I feel like, Lamar, you are definitely a prime example of a man pacing and walking to the beat of his own drum. And I honor you for that, man. And so again, of course. So again, just kind of getting started here. one of the questions, something that I definitely want to ask you, like, how long did it take for you to find out who Lamar is?
How long? You know, I can answer that question in a couple of ways, but I think who you are is kind of an evolving thing. I think as you grow and get older, you kind of learn like who you are, and you kind of develop who you are too. So it's like I think once you get older, you kind of set like who do I want to be, what my morals and values are. You have a personality that may or may not change as much, but I think you kind of decide like your values and what you want to implement, how you want to live your life. So like I guess the answer, I think probably around my 20s, I'll have to guess if that's when I kind of said like who do I want to be and who am I. And these are like kind of like the principles, guidelines I want to live by. But I think also with that being said, you're always evolving, you're always changing, and you're always growing. It's like our relationship with God, like we're always learning about who God is.
Yeah.
Even though there's core principles in the Bible and things you can gravitate towards to understand who God is, you're not going to have the totality of God probably ever,
Right.
But you still learn when you build a relationship. So I say, um, to answer it probably in my 20s, if there was like an answer to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely that evolving process.
That's good. That's good. I like what you said, especially about growing, knowing, who God is, right? Like, you're right, we're not going to know the totality of our Lord and Savior until I'd say, like, who we get on the other side. I mean, because we're constantly, reason why would you say that? Like, yes, we have an intimate relationship with Him, but again, like, to continue to grow in Him, I think that's a lifelong journey. So that's never it is an ever pursuit. It's never a full-blown, I'd say, destination. It's something that you're always going to be trying to go towards. I think that's beautiful. I mean, that's a solid answer, man. Especially, now I'll be honest, for me, I'd have to second that, right? Like, how long did it take Warren to find out who Warren is? And it took some time. I didn't wake up, I think, just immediately out the gate, knew everything about myself. And nobody really does. I think, don't get me wrong, everyone has their own journey. Some people get there maybe a little quicker than others, but I definitely understand that. That's powerful. Let me ask you this. You're a man who's confident in his own skin. Why do you think some men struggle with doing that, like being confident in who they are?
Yeah, I think a lot of people struggle, and especially men too, because like there's so many different, like you were talking about earlier, like with the whole, TikTok and social media. There's so much other influence, and almost like we live in a society now where like we glorify people, and humans aren't made to be glorified like that. If you think about the first downfall, which was Satan, he was trying to, he wanted to be like God. He was created to be a worship angel, but I want to be like the Most High. I would ascend above, and so like that took him from being who he was supposed to be to trying to be something else. And you see how that ended up going. So I think like a lot of times we see people that are a certain life, and they may have something we want, like, oh yeah, I want to be like that, oh I want to be like this person or that person, because they're glorified, and we gravitate towards that glory. Um, we gravitate towards that, and really, like, at the end of the day, like, you gotta understand who.
There's a lot of influence in today's society. So I think that's a valuable thing that sometimes people might not have the confidence to just be themselves. And I think you brought up some valid points. And again, just kind of reiterating, touching on that. For your journey, you just felt like you being comfortable in your own skin, not following others. You feel like that's something that really was kind of like a guiding light for you.
Yeah, I think I've been like I've kind of been on my own path, so to speak, even as far as like my friend group. But there's times where like I've seen stuff in other people growing up and like, oh yeah, I want to be like that and like that. But not to the point where like I'm coveting their lifestyle or what they have, but I'm taking like yeah, I don't implement this trait or this trait in my life, or oh this person is doing this, I maybe aspire to do something like they're doing. But Yeah, so for me, like I think everybody, it's like I said, it's a journey and a process as far as like you evolving and understanding who you actually want to be. And there's a process to that. So I think when you're younger, you're still kind of going through, you're learning, you're more impressionable as far as like things that can deter you from the path God may have for you, and also because you might not fully understand that yet, and we're always still kind of developing and understanding that. But I think one main thing is having those core values and things that you don't want to compromise on, like your character. I'm big on character, so like I think once you said that, you want to have certain standards of respect and love and integrity and honesty and things for yourself, like that you don't, stray away from. I think that's kind of give you a foundation to build off of. And the Bible has a lot of those principles of how to live.
Yeah.
So I think if you implement some of those things, like you'll end up being a godly person. Then of course, your personality, your interests, and all that stuff kind of brings the totality of who you are together.
Man, that's so beautifully stated. Like valid points, man. Definitely, I can also just chime in about what you're saying about your character. You definitely are. And I can agree with that, even in my own personal life. I think that is not having a moral compass and or an anchor. Without that, you're kind of floating around in this. And floating in life, especially when you don't have any sort of moral compass, that can be a big problem. Because without a compass, without any kind of directional navigation, you'll go off the rails. Like you'll do anything that you need to do in order to accomplish what you want or get what you want. And you can have an attitude like that in the confines of, like I said, a moral compass and attitude of doing things correctly. And in the biblical sense, if you don't have that, I think that's when the real issue can arise. So I definitely understand that.
Yeah, and I think like we said, like the moral compass too. So like you think about a compass, you lose that. You have that to keep track of a place you're trying to go and not get lost.
Right.
We pretty much look for not lost in the wilderness. But a lot of times we're gonna make mistakes. Like I made mistakes. I went off the path that really not in alignment with who I want to be. But when you think about if Jesus or God is that compass, like the Holy Spirit will convict you and you'll kind of set you back on track. Like, okay, I need to follow this person, or I need to do this, or I don't need to be in this particular set or with this particular group of people at this time. So I think that's a good word. Compass is a good.
That's good. Amen to that. And look, I was going to be honest, people. Excuse me for a couple of coughs. Getting over a little something. So y'all hear me? Yeah. So that's good. It was actually kind of really segues perfectly to kind of like my next question here. So I believe you have to study you in order to develop you, right? And that's something that meaning you have to spend time with yourself, to learn yourself, right? Like, how long do you think it took you to learn Lamar's strengths and weaknesses?
I think I'm still learning them.
Yeah.
I think like I said, you have to self-evaluate, and sometimes that's hard to do. Yeah. And part of that is like reflection and spending time with God, and then people listening to other people. Like I would say, now that I'm married, I see myself more than I've ever seen myself because I'm living with another person in a close relationship, and they see me on a daily, like, and it's like almost like I heard some guys say like when you get married, it's like a mirror.
I've heard that as well. Yeah.
So you get to see a lot more of yourself and your imperfections. So it's like a lot of times you don't even know, like, and we're all imperfect. No, it's perfect, but we don't see a lot of our quirks and things until there's someone with you, like on that, on a full-time basis.
That is so true. And shout out to your sis, Lacey Reaves, Mrs. Lacey Reaves, an amazing, powerful woman in her own right, powerful educator, just extraordinary woman. But yeah, definitely I can understand that as well. Even though I'm not married yet, but that does make a lot of sense. And I've heard that as well. It is kind of like the mirror / or even magnifying glass, because you're going to see yourself. You're right. Like when you're with somebody else that's constantly around you, certain things that you might not have picked up on, or if you acknowledge about yourself, but chose not to address, they're going to be addressed.
Yeah. having good people around you that can be honest with you and being able to accept criticism, and I wouldn't say it's not even criticism, like say iron sharpens iron. A brother will tell you, hey man, the way you talk to that person, I don't like that way you listen, the way you handle this situation, might not be in the best way. So just being able to take that feedback and help you realize, oh yeah, I do have this, or I do have this tendency.
Yeah,
Kind of build off of that.
absolutely, man. I think that's powerful, especially with, like you're saying, no pun intended, yeah, but the iron sharpening iron. I think that's beautiful. Well said. And I also like the part where basically, you're right, like that's an ever, here again, that word, an ever pursuit. Like you said, I like what you said that. I'm still learning, I'm still figuring that out. We also, I feel like as men, and people in general, especially men, like we gotta give ourselves some grace, right? And give ourselves time with us. Sometimes, hey, I've heard somebody say it like this. It sounded kind of a little odd at first, but it makes perfect sense. They were talking about the relationship with their father, right? And he said, a young man was saying that he was able to start learning and extending more grace to his father once he realized that at the end of the day, he's still a man who's living life for the first time too. Right? Like, it sounds funny to say when you say it that way, but it's like, well, that's exactly what we're all doing. This is our first time here. So we got to give ourselves that grace to figure some things out, especially when it comes to understanding who you are as a person, even your own makeup, your strengths and weaknesses. I love that, Lamar. That was absolutely perfect. Let me ask you this. Speaking of that, like, how much time did it take you over the years for you to really just kind of continue to kind of, just kind of fine tune some of those things with like your strengths and your weaknesses? Like, and it's not only just that, I should say, but I should scratch that. What are some of the ways that you've learned to, speaking of strengths and weaknesses, what are some of the ways you've learned to kind of like build up your self-confidence? But sometimes when we're deficient in an area, we might stay away from that, we might try to address it, or if we don't address it in a positive way, we lash out. So what are some ways that you've learned to kind of build up your confidence and maybe in certain areas where you weren't as strong?
Yeah, I think it's like anything, you think about like your body is full of muscles. To build that muscle, you got to work it. So if there's an area that you're not confident in, or you have weakness in, you have to work that area to get more confident, to get better. So like I think like it's knowing those things too. Knowing like, okay, I'm not as confident in this area. A lot of times you may know that, but when somebody else may say it, it'll have people like, oh yeah, well, maybe I need to work on that.
Yeah.
Whether it's like, say for instance, like somebody's got a bad attitude, maybe I need to work on my attitude, or somebody's not a confident person in speaking and standing up for themselves. That's an area where you got to draw a line. Hey, I got to stand up for myself. You got to work that.
Yeah.
You got to work that area. So I think knowing what that is, knowing what those areas are, is a key point, like you said, understanding that, and then working those areas too, whatever that area is that you may not be confident in or lack strength in.
Yeah. Now, Lamar, that excuse me, that is a bar if I ever heard one. He said, you got to work that area out. I love that. Y'all hear that? You have to work it out. Makes perfect sense to me, right? How's it going to get used if you don't use it? How's it going to grow if you don't work it out? I think that's powerful. There have been some areas where I've had to work some things out, right? Like I'm sure like we all, like we all do. There are some areas where I was like, man, and actually you said something key here, especially even about, there was an area for myself too, with speaking up. I remember especially, there was a time when I was kind of, I'll be a little transparent here, in this transitional time period of adulthood where you're not a kid anymore, you're a young adult. So I'm talking from mid-20s and up. I remember especially as I was starting to grow, there were particularly like people that had known me for years or even family members. Here I am, 25, 26, and 17, 8. And some of them at times were still talking to me, like I was still 8. Like, and there were moments where I had to learn. I was like, okay, yes, you remain respectful, but I've also had to I had to work that area out. I had to learn to start voicing my opinion, standing up for self. I was actually, I thought about letting that slide when you said that. I was like, no, we're going to do this. I'm going to be honest, be transparent. Let me know in the comments, if anybody, if you ever had issues with that person or any things you guys have struggled with. But yeah, that was something particularly for me. I've had to grow it, and it didn't happen overnight. It took me, I'm going to be honest, it took me years to do that. I remember there were certain instances I could start. There was one time it was an incident, happened in church. This was like years ago. He made I felt there was a off-kilter / unnecessary comment to me while we were in service. And I was like, why would you feel the need to? I remember, and I felt like God was giving me, especially when I was praying about that area, and He was giving me an opportunity to work it out. So before I said anything to the children, I had to went to the Lord. I kind of I feel like you're doing this on purpose here. I feel like you're giving me a situation where I now have to work this out. And I was just asking you for strength in this area. And here comes a situation that presented itself to allow me to use that strength that I was called on. And we had a peaceful conversation, and I kind of brought it to his attention. And after that, we were fine. After that, joke. But I don't even know why I went down that route.
No, that's good. That's actually a good point, because like we were talking earlier about, like, we're always evolving. And you mentioned like you being 8 years old, and then somebody still seeing you that, but that perspective of you haven't evolved to where you were.
Yeah.
So like sometimes people's perspective won't evolve with you, and they may think you still this person in that season, but you might be in a different season. And you evolve and you change, and they're still treating you like you're that person.
Man.
A couple of seasons ago.
Lamar, let me flip this table. Man, that is so true, right? Like, sometimes people, they relegate you to their previous experience of you, especially since they haven't had time, they haven't seen your growth, they haven't seen where you are since then. So in their mind, you're you 5 years ago, you're you 10 years ago, you're you 12 years ago. It's like, but you haven't talked to me since then. We haven't interacted since then. I've grown by leaps and bounds. God has worked on me. There's been a lot of process in that time period. That's
you know a good example of that? Jesus.
Yeah.
When he went back to his hometown, he couldn't do any miracles because of the lack of unbelief, because they still saw him as being the carpenter's son. They had seen him being the Messiah, preacher, teacher. Oh, that's just the carpenter's boy.
Yeah.
So if they did it to Jesus, it's gonna happen to us.
Right. We got to definitely have to understand that. You're right. That is so true. Well said. I mean, speaking of that too, in terms of just knowing who you are, standing up for yourself, I feel like there's a certain power in being yourself. What advantage do you feel that Lamar has just in being the man that God has called you to be and continuing to work toward being that man?
Yeah, well, speaking of power, I'll say being you is your superpower. Because, God picked, certain skills, traits, and talents within you, and then, our personality and character and all that stuff develops over time. But, like, if I was trying to be somebody else, like, I'm trying to be like Michael Phelps. Like, oh man, he got all these gold medals. I want to be like him. I coveted these gold medals. I want to do that. I could never be like. I'd probably get really good at swimming, but I'll be totally off the path that God would want me to have. Not be who He put me here to be, and I'm going to be the most successful being who He made me to be, and being authentic to myself, and being going down the road that I feel like He's leading me down. So what was the question about?
No, you're good. Yeah, it's good. Like, so what advantage do you feel that you have in just being?
It's who you're supposed to be. Like I said, it's a superpower. Like you're going to be like it's like we sports guys. I think most people probably hear this now. Like the whole Shaq and Kobe thing. Like,
okay, yeah.
If Kobe's trying to be out there in the post, and back people like, cause he thought Shaq is cool. You know, then Shaq trying to do all the dribbling and handles because he thinks, oh, Kobe's cool, I want to be like him. Like, you know, they're not gonna be operating their superpower. Right. But Shaq is he on the post, he on the block, he was knocking people down, you know, just strength. That's his superpower. Yeah. So whatever you are and who God kind of picture to be, like you have to operate in it. That's really that's where your power is, being authentic to yourself and being true to who you are and going down the path that God called you to be.
That is such a valid point. It's funny you mentioned Kobe and LeBron. I actually watched. This is an old interview of Kobe, and he hit the nail on the head. That is your superpower. So like people have to, pun intended, play your position, right? Yes. And with that, Kobe actually gave Shaq some credit. One of the things he talked about how he loved about Shaq was Shaq's a big guy. And he said, but he played like a big guy. Yeah. He wasn't afraid to use his body. He was aggressive, and Kobe loved that. And he actually said that. He said most big players, he was like, they don't play like they're big. He was like, Shaq does. And he did.
Yeah. You see a lot of big guys on it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be in the post now. Like, they all
right, yeah.
Jump shots.
And that's where, man, Kill O'Neal dominated.
Yeah.
Big Shaq. You get the Shaq food if you got too close.
Yeah, we ain't seen another Shaq.
Yeah, that's true. You understood who he was, and he, again, pun intended, he played his position. And I think, especially us as men, if we can learn who you are and play your position and double down, triple down, quadruple down on the things that help make you you, I believe, like, man, just that's the further you go. The sky won't even be the limit. Yeah. Truly, I think there's limitless potential that we all carry. And again, like this is it's what we're talking about, right? The art of being you, just being yourself, not necessarily worrying about what others are doing. Have you ever felt that there was a time where you weren't as sure of being you, like you were trying to maybe wish you were different or?
Yeah, I think growing up as a kid, you're still trying to figure out who you are, and and sometimes you're not even trying to figure it out. You're just kind of going through life, and you're seeing other people that may influence you, and why I can't do that? Oh, they're good at that, and why are y'all picking on me for drawing?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Cause like me, I think me growing up, like I love sports, but I was a very artistic kid. I like to draw and do stuff and paint. Do all that stuff, and so like sometimes like why are you painting? I paint for sissies and all that stuff, So you're gonna hear that stuff that's gonna influence you as a person. Kids gonna be kids, they're gonna say stuff. You go up and do it, you're gonna go through a lot of stuff and hear a lot of junk, regardless. But at the end of the day, like that's a part of it. But as you start to become a man, you have to really. I think it's important, like I said, to have that character and understand like what's really true to you. Like, if I like art, I like art. If I like this, I like this. Be honest with yourself, and just try to build a foundation around godly character and principles. Like having a godly foundation, even though I wasn't always on it to the T, it was always in the back of my head and come up in a biblical background. Being forced to go to church.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So like I know the Bible says like the parent of a child where he go when he's old, he won't depart from it. So I think a lot of those things like you may not implement it right away, but as you get older, like you're like, okay, this is what I really want to build my foundation on.
That is good. Emphasis on being forced to go to church. Y'all let me know if you had the same growing up. I know I did. But as time went on, we cultivated our own relationships, right? Which is that's definitely the beauty of it. Man, Lamar, you have made some amazing points here, man. I think there are a lot of things people can take away from this. Again, like this is what we're talking about, Pastor. It's the art of being you. And I felt like and still feel that you embody that 100%, a million percent. So you. So lastly, just kind of, what would you like to leave people with what would you say to some other young men out there, or just other men, period, maybe who aren't as sure of themselves, or because that can be anybody. I don't care how old you are. There's a 45, 55, 65, 75-year-old man out there who might not be completely comfortable with who he is. Like, what would you say to somebody who maybe struggle a little bit to be comfortable with who they are?
Yeah, I think sometimes it takes time, and you have to build up that confidence, and sometimes like what other people how other people treat you. Yeah, I would say like as you grow and get older, like as you're growing up, and like things are going to have impressions on you as far as like how people treat you. So you're going to have outside influences that maybe affect who you are negatively or positively. I think you got to kind of like weigh those things, and there may be some things that you actually want to change. I might have a bad attitude, or I might want to treat people. There's something that I have to like take inventory and like, okay, I want to change this right here. There may be other things like where people may not like your personality or like where you are in life or whatever, but at the end of the day, like you got to be honest with who you want to be and understand who you want to be, so that it doesn't deter you from going after continue down the path of who you actually want to be. And also like I said like earlier, like having that foundation of a godly character and lifestyle, and just trying to have a life off of biblical principles is very important, because I think like having that is kind of the foundation of how God wants us to live, as far as like love, respect, and appreciation and care for others. I think those are just like some good values and principles from a biblical standpoint that everybody should try to aspire to have. So I guess to answer your question a bit, as far as like somebody's not comfortable with who they are, like I think it's just a process of like taking inventory and continuing to grow and aspiring to become who you actually want to be, and that's the process. And we may not always be comfortable with everything like that we have and where we are right now, but I think it's like you said, continuing to work those areas that you may want to change for the better, and then understanding like who you want to be, and keep evolving towards that path, growing towards that path.
Man, well said, Lamar. It has been my absolute pleasure. Keep that in mind, and keep it in your heart. God made you to be you. This is the art of being you. This was amazing, and this is the ISI project. I look forward to coming back. Hopefully, Lamar, you come back again.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thanks, man. No, I appreciate you, man. I don't take that for granted. And again, I'm also going to ask. I'll just be honest. I'm going to do this. I'm being transparent. This is my first time, so we're going to grow together. I'm going to grow as I go. So you might. I'll continue to fine tune. Iron's going to sharpen iron. I'm going to get better every time we keep going. So I appreciate you guys along the way. We had a couple of little technical difficulties happening as we were filming, but it's all good. I appreciate your time, Lamar. Again, guys, this is the first episode of the ISI Project.